The Mercedes GLA with the recent facelift here is today on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Today with me, with Thomas. We're going to take a detailed look on the exterior, interior and the driving performance here with the GLA 220 petrol. So a very interesting setup here for sure. This compact crossover and also the changes in the most recent facelift. We'll explain you everything you need to know about this vehicle. Join us on Autogefühl in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! Starting here with the front, wow, even if those white color nuance here is more a little bit beige and rather cream, wow, it looks so shiny here in the sun, doesn't it? The front grille has this crossover style with those gaps here, pretty nicely done. 2D Mercedes logo as the sensor is hidden behind it. Well, it has the autonomous emergency brake from standard equipment. I think that is very important for sure. But of course, optionally, you can get so many more assistance systems. A split here for the rear hood and the rest of the front part. But this one can easily be assembled and removed or replaced in case of a small crash, for example. Then with the facelift, you can now also get the LED headlight, which was also mounted here. Also with a nice, welcoming light if you open the car and standing in the darkness. I have also gathered some shots when it was dark in the basement, and then you can see there's first this blue stripe. Then just shortly you can see it on camera. In real sight you can see it a little bit, a little bit longer when it comes to normal daytime running light. So overall it looks pretty impressive, nicely done. Surely a nice option. But of course it does cost optional money. 4.42 meters or 14.5 the total length here, compact crossover, and you can see in the side profile it is basically an A-class that was put a little bit higher. Yes, I mean that's not bad at all, but there's not so much difference between A-class and GLA, we have to be honest about that. Rims here 18-inch. They come, for example, if you pick different trim levels automatically. There's Style, which is this vehicle, Urban and AMG with Urban and the AMG line. Then it comes already with 18-inch. Here they are optional, but I think quite fitting to the vehicle. The GLA also has those plastic wheel arches to stress the crossover style. Other than that, design line below the door handle, then rather narrow windows in the rear. They limit the overview from the inside just a little bit. Rather strong shoulders, and they already accentuate this rather sporty approach of this compact crossover. We'll of course talk more about that when we really drive the vehicle. And here we go with the rear, which has a rather round scheme overall, so very round taillights as you can see it right here. GLA 220 is the name of this very engine. Soon take a look at the engines as well. Then this chrome plate right here. And the lower part is defined by the crossover style, again with this matte gray. And they do not put fake exhaust tips. I think that's a good decision. Why would you actually do that? They just put the real exhaust below that. That's okay if you use those 4-cylinder engines. By this window line, you can see you do lose some space in the trunk. And again, this has design reasons, but we'll also check out how much room there is really left. You can open the tailgate here with the key. There's also now a foot opening mechanism available since the facelift, but not built in this vehicle. Here you can still live with the trunk. You see it is somewhat limited in height, but still, I mean, a normal compact size. Pretty suitable for the groceries, and I've already put down the 1/3 of the 2/3 flipping of the rear seats. You can see how you can also then load things through. Top tethers at the back side of the seats. So let's take a first look inside. Here inside of the doors in the style trim level, a nice grey cloth inlet, then leatherette below that, automatic window levers, memory seat control with 3 memory slots, that's coming quite handy. Then illuminated Mercedes-Benz entry cabin lower part. Here then a rather sporty cockpit, you can already see it. They have great seat surfaces. Here, for example, the style trim inside, a fabric, keeps you cool in summer and warm in winter, and leatherette on the outside for the visual purposes. Wow, visually great combination, also sustainable. They also get the full leatherette if you want something to wipe clean easy. And in the AMG line, or the true AMG models, they have also microfiber on the middle part and leatherette on the outside. That would also be possible. This one, by the way, the normal seat, there's also a sports seat available with more side support. Then steering wheel right here, also in a sporty style. All the gauges and vents, they also have this sporty style. Soft touch on the top of the dashboard here, so great processing quality. The only thing that is hard pack is, for example, here also with the middle console around the control knob button here. This could have been a little bit softer, and then I would be really totally satisfied with this interior. But again, I think you can already rate it very well. And let's get inside. The entry is a little easier than with the A-Class because it sits a little bit higher. That is one advantage for sure. Also, the seating position is a little bit more upright than. The seats in general are very comfortable. I really like those, not only the surface, also the form. You can also have the electric controls. It's on the inside of the doors. You can also lengthen the seating area manually. Good idea for tall drivers. And steering wheel can be adjusted manually very far away. So this is also one of the advantages. You can really adjust to your position. That is, very easily done. The view to the front is somewhat limited from the view there. Headroom-wise, there's no panoramic roof. Here you can go for it optional. This one is this headroom you have still left when you are 1.86 or 6'1". So definitely good result also for tall drivers. Well, to the A-pillar it gets a little bit close, but usually, well, when are you leaning so close to the door? It's not happening that often, I think, at least. Again, to show you how I control seats is here a little bit harder because the controls are not here. The seats just lumbar support. They're all here, and then you can, move the seat forward or the back part of the seat. But when you have the door closed, it's actually a good control where you don't have to touch in the lower part. You can also see it, and also as those controls basically form a seating area, you can always see what you are actually controlling at the very moment. So the interior overview, as we can see it here. The dashboard is nicely covered in this leatherette style, I would call it. It's soft. Then here is a sporty decor right there, with a special structure. Very prominent are also all the vents right there. This is the way you close it. This way you open it, and then the air comes out. Here, open, closed. You can do it with all of those. A very classic one here with these numbers, CD slot. This one will be left out with the next generation, I guess. And then seat heating, for example, in the lower part, and the temperature unit is placed very, very low. If you leave it on auto mode all the way, no problem. But if you control it, especially by driving, you have to look down pretty low. Or maybe you keep on driving and you just do it automatically when you know the car. But I think it's placed in general very low. Steering wheel is quite compact. Also, with perforated sides right there. Very well in control you are, but you can see there's not so much, panoramic view to the front. Again, a rather sporty cockpit layout, definitely, as you can see it here from the position. Then there's 7-inch or 8-inch, as we can see here now, for the screen. This one here, the optional one that is available since the facelift, a little bit wider. It looks a little bit attached still, doesn't it? Those ones, by the way, the performance gauges that turn up the kilowatt output power and newton meters of torque. I will also turn it on when we drive the vehicle. Soon more infos to that infotainment system. And the glove box, well, actually standard style. In the lower part here we have some small storage space, 12-volt power supply. In front of that there's some more bigger boxes, and in the other lower part then here we got 2 beverage holders. You can also remove this part if you like, so they're not really adaptive. And this then is the standard controlling knob for the infotainment system. Press and turn, and armrest. You can put it up, some space below there, and 2 USB ports. And the instruments, rather classic, left speed, right RPM. In the middle one you have a small digital screen where you have, for example, consumption info, digital speedometer, or also some basic GPS info when the destination mode is running. So now to the infotainment system. If it appears to be flickering in a way, by the way, that's just on camera then. So the most important functions, truly the 360-degree camera, if you like to order one. Then you have this fake drone view from above, and also a normal view camera. And it also looks to the front if you like, so you can also switch it around. Different views are possible. It's a very good system and great resolution. Then the normal system is not that intuitive. Here for the GPS, for example, it's actually okay, not responding that fast. Well, it's, I would say, mediocre. Okay. Radio, media, telephone, you can connect via Bluetooth. That's one possibility. Or you can put in the cable. Then you also here with the bigger infotainment system have the Apple CarPlay option. So that's also possible, and it reacts and also quite fast. It's also a good solution then. Now to the rear compartment. The door does not open that wide, so it's not that easy to get in. And well, knee room wise, there's a gap on the inside of the seat. I could very well use it, or let's say better, when the seat would be a little bit higher. So if a tall person is driving, you have to be aware you should put the seat a little bit higher, then you can easier use this gap. But in the compact segment, knee room wise, not exactly the best result. This is not a strength of this vehicle. Headroom wise, it's still okay. I can put actually something above my head still. This works. With the panoramic roof, maybe not too good. In general, the seating position in the rear is a little bit cramped. Also, the angle of my knees and stuff. So again, not the best of this vehicle. But what is great that we also have the same design with the very interesting cloth, also with some stamping details here on the seats. It is also, very durable, by the way, the inside part here. Isofix on the outside of the seats, and you can, well, you have to flip the seats from here, 2/3, 1/3 split. I've shown you that already, how it looks like from the rear. Unfortunately, there's no real possibility to do it from the rear unless you demount the top cover from the trunk. Then it would be easier actually from the rear, but usually you just go around and make it from here then. And engines, well, there are so many horsepower figures, it would actually bring this view to an explosion. Well, but let me tell you the displacement figures. Here in the petrol engine, 1.6 liter or a 2 liter one. Turbo, of course. This one is also 2 liter displacement here, the 220 with 180 horsepower. And diesels are 1.5 liter of displacement or 2.1 liter. And then so many different horsepower figures available. This one here also with 4MATIC all-wheel drive. You won't really realize it when driving it. It's basically front plus rear drive on demand, so the torque is distributed. Of course, handy in winter times. This one here, this configuration is also only available with that, also together with a 7-speed DCT dual clutch transmission. So welcome to the driving part, and we start using the dynamic select, which is built in here. We go to the sport mode. Also we can just start the engine on a button to remove the start-stop function. And with the sport mode we can accelerate a little bit better. This was just putting the throttle halfway through, and you see that this 4-cylinder engine has quite a good performance. 7.1 seconds to 100 kilometers in this GLA 220 spec. Also when going on the motorway now. We also have a blind spot monitor among the optional assistance system. You know, the autonomous emergency brake is standard, that's very good. Then there's a red triangle there. This one is an option. You see here they have the setup that it actually appears quite late if you compare it to other models. Let's go to the middle part here. So, you know, from a lot of Volkswagen AG vehicles, it appears very early. And we've seen the other example with the Peugeot 3008, for example, where it appears only in a second. You have it in the blind spot mirror. And here it's approximately the same, so they have thought they make a setup here where it appears relatively late, not a pre-warning basically, but just saying this is now the point where it is really in the blind spot. So you can argue pro and con both of the systems for sure. So on the motorway, I must say the sound insulation is not that good. It is on a basic good level, but it is not super, it's not way ahead of the compact competitors, for example. So we have in some segments where Mercedes is ahead of the competition. Here in the compact segment, they are not. If you're driving a little bit faster also, the car still reacts very well. So the steering is not too hard on the one hand, but feels very, very natural. That's good. Here in the sport mode, the throttle input is a little bit better. Or earlier. Suspension, if you have the adaptive suspension, it also changes a little bit of the suspension. The difference, however, going now back to the comfort mode when we're going rather to the city driving, well, you can easily go with the standard suspension. You don't have to pay the extra amount of money to get the optional suspension. It's not really needed. If you want a little wider span between the normal and sport, then you could go for this adaptive sport suspension. And well, again, it's nice to have, but not really a must-have, which we have in here. So at lower speeds or when standing still, this engine here is very silent. Being in the comfort mode, we also keep it rather at low RPM. The dual clutch transmission, 7-speed DCT, which has been revised and put in here, does a very good job. You hardly feel this shifting transition. Only when you're on the sport mode, then those transitions are more recognizable. Here again, you see they are a little bit more progressive steerings, that's for sure. But this one here again feels very natural, and you have actually a feedback from any point of angle, so there's no dead angle or something. Overall, definitely a pleasing figure. On the steering wheel, you do control, for example, you know, when I want to check the consumption when I'm driving, press the up arrow up, or go down again to the current speed. By the way, consumption 8.5 liters in 100 kilometers for my test riding here so far. Yeah, that's too much. That's definitely too much for a compact vehicle. And as powerful as the engine is, and as refined it is, so silent really when we're going slower now, and even powerful in the higher speed region, does consume too much fuel. And I mean, wind drag wise, it is not too different from a Mercedes A-Class if you look at it, at the vehicle, and also driving wise, by the way. If I would close the eyes and someone would ask me, are you driving a Mercedes A-Class or are you driving a GLA? I would be like, I don't know. So it doesn't make too much of a difference. Yes, you do sit a little bit higher, but as the ride itself is still really sporty, you don't recognize so much difference. And I think that's also one of the main characteristics when driving the Mercedes GLA, even in the normal versions. It is rather set on a very sporty ride. You mean it's not too high from the seating position, and from the viewpoint, also the view to the front is not this panoramic view to the front, rather sporty. Also, if you think about other smaller or compact crossovers or SUVs, they tend to focus a little bit more on the comfort, on more the high SUV, soft riding style. And this one here still has the very sporty approach. So again, if you then decide between different competitors, not about good or bad, it's really about what you like to have. So if you rather prefer this sporty approach, then you just ride with this one. I've also mounted those sport gauges here. They can see the Newton meter and kilowatt power output of the vehicle. Well, I usually don't use that while driving, just for show purposes now for you. At lower speeds, by the way, sound insulation is quite fine. But as I said again, I have had compact cars that are a little bit more silent. In general, it gives you a very controlled and cozy feeling, and more a sports crossover. That's for sure. I can just stress it again. And soon we get on the motorway ride once more. Well, the driving modes, I would rather use comfort or sport mode, something between. Usually not. Actually, you can also stay in sports mode all the time. It's also possible, because if you want to take a maneuver to overtake on the motorway, I can soon show you that too. Then you can also use the shifting pedals. That is also possible. Seating wise, I found it very comfortable. As I said earlier, you can also adjust those seats very well, also with the mirroring function. Here, lane change, you see I don't have to turn so much on the steering wheel, and wow, how well the car reacts. I do imagine driving the GLA 45, the AMG, at some point with the launch. I think it was 2014. And that one, of course, was way sportier than, even stiffer. But I think here it's still a good compromise, between driving comfort and a sporty ride. If I think about the AMG version, then you really have to be, super keen on that stiff ride, and because it does cost you some everyday driving comfort for sure. Here then, rather flawless ride, pushing the throttle together with the suspension and overall quality of the ride. It is still a very effortless ride, and for sure one of the most exclusive rides you can have for a compact vehicle. But of course, as I said earlier, it also comes at a price. So not everyone wants to buy a compact vehicle when it goes into like 40,000-50,000 euros regions. That is, really, really So let's see something more about the acceleration when I really floor the throttle. So I'll drop to 70 kilometers an hour. Well, let's say 75. And then I floor the throttle. Let's see also in comfort mode how it reacts. Let's go. Plop, 100. Wow. Wow. That's really something from that 4-cylinder engine, right? So you see that even with the GLA 220 petrol, you really get some power under the hood. Wow, that's really impressive. And again, for example, when I'm switching to comfort, now in the 7th gear of the dual clutch transmission, I can just click the pedal once or twice, 5th gear, turn up the RPM, and then I can, I'm more ready for the next overtaking maneuver. Holding the right pedal, and then you can go back to the normal D mode. Pushing up the lever next to or below the indicators, then you are in the Distronic Plus mode. If you have equipped the vehicle, which is the case right here, is really my favorite system for the ACC. Keeps the distance, the distance so precisely. You can also set how the distance is being kept. And it also reduces the speed until 0 together with the automatic transmission. So you can really trust on that system. I really like it. It gives you so much more comfort. And I just concentrate on turning the wheel, the steering wheel under here. And that's about it. And also in traffic, for example, when it comes to a standstill, it doesn't have this, the same assist. Let's get off the motorway here. It doesn't have, here again, I'll see how agile, how agile the car is, although it's crossover. So effortless, a lot of fun to drive this vehicle, really, a lot of sporty fun. About this traffic jam assist, it doesn't realize that the cars are starting, it goes on its own, but then you just pull the lever, the ACC lever once towards you, and then the car knows, want to keep driving, you don't have to do anything with the pedal or something below with your foot. This would be then the command for the Distronic Plus to say, you can keep going again. So that's actually coming quite handy also when being in traffic. So again, really very solid performance from this vehicle, sporty orientation, a lot of driving fun. For sure, if you like the sporty rides, one of the most fun sporty vehicles. And again, it does not make the biggest difference if you're now having an A-Class or the GLA. They are both quite similar. It's more about styling and a little difference with getting in and out, so it's easier. If I could choose freely, the GLA is a little bit more expensive, but if money wouldn't play a role, I would still probably go for the GLA because it gives me a little bit more comfort and easy get in and out. And I also don't mind this somewhat crossover style. So I don't necessarily think that the A-Class is super more beautiful than this one here. Of course, it's totally up to you, how you think that. So I think that you definitely have done a good job with here. With all the pros and cons we mentioned, and also some more countryside driving, you can really relax. Now when I'm driving 55 kilometers an hour with the cruise control set on, it feels so slow. When you went on the motorway before, that's always very dangerous, and then you get into a slower area, you start to get speeding because it feels so much slower than before. Maybe last remark to the overview. Due to the design approach they do have here, you don't have the best overview. Again, small windows, basically on every side, especially to the rear side. This area is not too good. The only advantage you have, it's still a hatch vehicle, so due to the direct rear, if you look to the rear mirror, they can see actually pretty well what's behind you. So I think we have covered different aspects here. Fun car to drive. And we'll see you soon, very, very soon, in our final conclusion. And now to our conclusion, Mercedes GLA. So overall, a very, very good vehicle, no doubt about that. In the compact crossover class, this one here is rather a very sporty approach, even in those, let's say, standard or base models. It has a very attractive Mercedes exterior, for sure. Good quality in the interior. Very nice and attractive seating options, as we shown you earlier in different respects. Well, the offering of space inside could be a little better. That's not best in class for sure. So at some point the design also plays a role. That is also, a limiting factor. Driving-wise, it's a very sporty approach. It's so much fun to ride this vehicle. Driving-wise, also not so much difference to the normal Mercedes A-Class. Still such a sporty ride, a lot of fun, that's for sure. For some, maybe even too stiff if you more seek a high cross or high SUV, soft riding style. But that's of course up to you what you want. So overall, a very good car. But then again, well, the only thing I could complain is the price. It's very, very expensive. So I would only go for it if you really get a very good deal for it. So look forward to your feedback now. Tell me everything you want to know, which we didn't cover yet, and tell me everything you want to express about exterior, interior or driving this vehicle. Thank you so much again, and tune in next time to Autogefühl.